Captain Jake Miller stood at the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the main screen. After 3 years of radio signals back and forth across the galaxy, this was humanity's first face-to-face meeting with aliens. His hands were sweaty, but he kept his voice steady as he spoke to his crew. "Take us to Docking Bay 7, he told his pilot, nice and slow. We don't want to look threatening. The space station was huge, at least 10 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. It was made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lisa Park, the chief diplomat, stood beside Jake at the viewing window. She wore her best blue uniform, the one with all the medals and ribbons that showed she spoke for all of Earth. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her brown eyes studied the alien station with careful attention. "Remember what we discussed," she said quietly. "We're here to make friends, not enemies. These aliens have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They know things we don't. We need to be respectful." Jake nodded. "Don't worry, Lisa. We'll follow your lead. The whole crew knows how important this is." The USS Liberty was humanity's newest ship, but compared to the alien station, it looked like a child's toy. It had taken Earth's best engineers 5 years to build, using every piece of advanced technology they could manage. The ship could travel faster than light, but barely. It had weapons, but they were simple compared to what the aliens probably had. The docking went smoothly. The alien station's computers talked to the Liberty's computers in a language that had taken human scientists months to understand. When the docking was complete, Jake felt a small vibration through the ship's hull. "Docking complete, Captain," reported his pilot. "Their atmosphere is breathable. Temperature is a bit warm, but nothing we can't handle." Jake turned to Lisa. "Ready to make history?" Lisa smiled, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. "As ready as anyone can be for meeting aliens." They walked through the ship's corridors to the airlock. The rest of the diplomatic team was waiting there. There was Dr. Kevin Brown, the scientist who would study any alien technology they were willing to share. There was Amy Foster, the engineer who understood the Liberty systems better than anyone. And there were 6 security guards led by Colonel Matt Johnson, just in case things went wrong. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Beyond it was a corridor that looked like it belonged in a museum. The walls were covered with strange art, and the ceiling was so high that Jake had to crane his neck to see it. The air smelled like flowers, but not any flowers that grew on Earth. Their footsteps echoed as they walked down the corridor. After a few minutes, they reached a massive door that was at least 20 feet tall. It opened without a sound, revealing a huge room beyond. The room was filled with aliens. Jake had seen pictures, of course. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrian Alliance, and they looked somewhat like humans, but taller and thinner. Their skin was pale blue, almost white, and their eyes were large and dark. They wore long robes that seemed to be made of metal threads, and their heads were completely bald, but seeing them in person was different. There were at least 50 of them in the room, all standing perfectly still and watching the humans with those dark eyes. At the center of the room, on a platform that raised him above the others, stood the tallest alien Jake had ever seen. "I am High Commander Vexther," the tall alien said. His voice was deep and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I speak for the Zephyrian Alliance. You are the humans from the small planet called Earth." Lisa stepped forward and bowed slightly. "I am Lisa Park, representing the United Nations of Earth. We're honored to meet you, High Commander. We hope this can be the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." Vexther looked down at her with what might have been amusement. "Friendship," he repeated slowly. "Yes, perhaps that is possible, but first, we must discuss your place in the galaxy." Jake didn't like the way the alien said, "your place." It sounded like a teacher talking to a student who had done something wrong. "We're new to space travel," Lisa said carefully. "We know we have much to learn. We hope you can teach us." "Indeed," Vexther said. "You are very new. Your species has been traveling between stars for how long?" 5 of your years?" 10. About 8 years, Lisa replied. The other aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. It wasn't a pleasant sound. 8 years, Vexler repeated. We have been exploring the galaxy for over 10,000 years. We have seen species like yours before. Young, aggressive, dangerous to themselves and others. Most of them destroy themselves before they can cause too much trouble. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The alien was talking about humanity like they were children playing with weapons. But some species survive, Vexler continued. They learn wisdom. They accept guidance from those who know better. They become part of the greater galactic community. Lisa kept her voice calm. We're certainly interested in learning from more experienced species. What kind of guidance are you offering? Vexler stepped down from his platform and walked closer. To the humans. Up close, he was even taller than Jake had thought, at least 7 feet tall. His dark eyes studied each human in turn like he was examining insects. The Zephyrian Alliance has brought peace to over 200 worlds, he said. We have ended wars, stopped famines, and guided young species toward wisdom. We offer the same to humanity. That sounds wonderful, Lisa said. What would that involve? Simple, Vexler replied. Your species would place itself under our protection. We would station ships in your system to keep you safe. We would guide your leaders in making proper decisions. We would teach you the correct way to live in the galaxy. Jake felt his stomach drop. This wasn't friendship. This was conquest disguised. As kindness, Lisa's voice remained steady. We appreciate the offer, High Commander. But humanity values its independence. We prefer to make our own decisions, even if we make mistakes. The room fell silent. The other aliens looked at each other, and Jake could feel tension building like electricity in the air. Vexler's expression changed. His dark eyes narrowed, and his voice became cold. You misunderstand, he said. This is not a request. This is how things are done in the galaxy. Young species cannot be trusted to govern themselves. You will accept our guidance, or you will face the consequences of your foolishness. Colonel Matt Johnson stepped forward slightly, his hand moving toward his weapon. Jake caught his eye and shook his head slightly. Not yet. High Commander, Lisa said, we came here in peace, hoping to build a relationship based on mutual respect. We're not looking for a master, we're looking for equals. Vexler laughed, and this time there was no mistaking it for anything but mockery. Equals, he said. You have 8 years of space travel. We have 10,000. You have 1 world. We have 200. You have primitive weapons and slow ships. We have power beyond your imagination. He gestured to the other aliens, and they began to move closer to the humans. You have 30 of your days to consider our offer, Vexler said. Return to your small planet. Speak to your leaders. Make them understand that the Zephyrian Alliance does not make offers twice. Jake stepped forward. And if we refuse? Vexler smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp and too white. Then you will learn why no species has ever successfully defied the Zephyrian Alliance, he said. And you will learn why your independence is not as important as you think it is. The meeting was over. The humans were escorted back to their ship in silence, surrounded by alien guards who made it clear that this was not a request. As the USS Liberty undocked from the station, Jake watched the massive structure disappear into the darkness of space. Well, Lisa said quietly, that could have gone better. Jake nodded grimly. Set course for Earth, he told his pilot. Best speed? As the Liberty jumped to faster-than-light travel, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they had just made humanity's first enemy among the stars, and he had no idea if they were strong enough to survive what was coming next. The USS Liberty arrived at Earth after 3 days of travel at maximum speed. Captain Jake Miller had barely slept during the journey, his mind racing with thoughts of the alien ultimatum. As Earth appeared on the main screen, looking small and blue against the black of space, he felt a mixture of relief and dread. Take us to lunar orbit, he told his pilot. Contact Earth Defense Command. Tell them we need an emergency meeting with the President. Within hours, Jake and Lisa Park were sitting in the most secure room in the Pentagon, Surrounded by the most powerful people on Earth, President Martha Collins sat at the head of the table, her gray hair pulled back and her face showing the strain of leading a world that had just learned it was not alone in the universe. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," President Collins said, her voice tired. "These aliens want us to give up our independence and let them rule us, or they'll attack us in 30 days. "That's correct, Madam President," Lisa replied. High Commander Vexler was very clear. They don't see this as conquest. They see it as guidance for a primitive species. General Ryan Hayes, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, leaned forward. He was a big man with silver hair and scars on his hands from his days as a soldier. "What do we know about their military capabilities?" Dr. Kevin Brown opened a folder, full of photographs and technical data. "Based on what we observed at the space station, they're far ahead of us technologically. Their ships are faster, their weapons are more powerful, and they have energy shields that can deflect our current missiles." "How far ahead?" asked President Collins. "Maybe 50 years, maybe 100, Dr. Kevin replied. "It's hard to say exactly. Their technology works on principles we don't fully understand yet." Amy Foster, the engineer, spoke up from her seat near the end of the table. "But being advanced doesn't mean they're unbeatable. Every technology has weaknesses. We just need to find them." General Hayes nodded. "What about numbers?" "How many ships do they have?" Jake answered this time. "We counted at least 50 ships near the space station, but that was just what we could see. Based on what Vexler said about controlling 200 worlds, they probably have thousands of ships." The room fell silent. Everyone was doing the math in their heads, and the numbers didn't look good for humanity. "What about our defenses?" President Collins asked. "We have about 200 ships that can fight in space," General Hayes said. "Most of them are converted cargo vessels with weapons attached. We have maybe 30 ships that were built specifically for combat." "And they have thousands," the president said quietly. "We don't know that for sure," Amy said. "They might have thousands of ships, but how many can they bring to Earth? How far are they willing to travel? How much are they willing to spend to conquer one small planet?" Dr. Kevin looked at his notes. "Based on their behavior at the meeting, I think they're used to species surrendering without a fight. They probably don't expect serious resistance." "Which brings us to the key question," President Collins said. "Do we surrender or do we fight?" The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, General Hayes spoke. "Madam President, I've been a soldier for 30 years. I've seen what happens when good people don't stand up to bullies. If we surrender now, we'll never be free again. Our children will grow up as slaves, even if the aliens call it something else." "But if we fight, millions of people might die," the president said. "And if we surrender, the human spirit dies," Lisa said quietly. "I've spent my career negotiating with difficult people. Vexler isn't interested in compromise. He wants total control." President Collins looked around the table at each person. "Dr. Brown, what's your assessment?" "From a purely scientific standpoint, our chances of winning a direct military confrontation are very low," he said. "But humans have always been good at finding creative solutions to impossible problems. We might not be able to match their technology, but we can try to outsmart them. Amy, what about you?" The engineer smiled grimly. "I've been designing weapons and defenses my whole career. I've never met a system that couldn't be beaten somehow. It just takes time and creativity." "Time we don't have," General Hayes pointed out. "We have 30 days, Amy said. "That's not much, but it's something." "And we have one advantage they don't expect, which is, they think we're primitive. They think we're weak. They think we'll surrender when they show up with their big ships. They don't understand that humans fight harder when we're cornered." President Collins stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the city of Washington, full of people going about their daily lives, unaware that their world was about to change forever. "I need to address the nation tonight," she said. "The people have a right to know what's coming. What will you tell them?" Lisa asked. "The truth. That we're facing an enemy that's stronger than us, that we might lose, but that we're going to fight anyway," because that's what humans do. She turned back to the table. General Hayes, I want every ship we have prepared for combat. I want every weapon system checked and double-checked. I want our best pilots training day and night. Yes, Madam President. Dr. Brown, I want you to study everything we know about alien technology, find their weaknesses, find a way to hurt them. I'll do my best. Amy, I want you to work with Dr. Brown. Design new weapons, new defenses, new strategies. Think outside the box. Be creative. You got it. Lisa, I want you to reach out to every nation on Earth. We need to be united for this. No more arguing. About politics or borders, it's humanity against the aliens. I'll start making calls immediately. President Collins sat back down and looked at each person in turn. I won't lie to you. This is probably the most dangerous situation humanity has ever faced. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time, but we have something they don't have. What's that? Jake asked. We have everything to lose. This is our home. These are our families. And humans have never been good at giving up. Meanwhile, far out at the edge of the solar system, the Zephyrian fleet was gathering. Admiral Kexvara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as more and more ships arrived through faster-than-light travel. The fleet was impressive, 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Status report, he commanded. 198 ships have arrived, his aide reported. The remaining 2 will arrive within the next day. And the humans? Our long-range sensors show increased activity around their planet. They appear to be preparing their primitive fleet for combat. Admiral Kexvara laughed. Foolish creatures. They actually think they can fight us. Should we attack now, Admiral? Why wait the full 30 days? Because High Commander Vexler wants them to suffer. He wants them to spend 30 days in fear, knowing that doom is coming. He wants them to realize how hopeless their situation is. The aide nodded. And if they surrender? Then we accept their surrender and place them under Alliance protection. If they don double Kexvara smiled coldly. Then we remind the galaxy why no one defies the Zephyrian Alliance. Back on Earth, the news was spreading. President Collins had addressed the nation and then the world. The reaction was mixed. Some people panicked, some people prayed. Some people packed up and tried to leave the planet, though there was nowhere to go, but many people did something the aliens didn't expect. They got angry. They got ready to fight in military bases around the world. Soldiers cleaned their weapons and studied star charts. In research labs, scientists worked around the clock to understand alien technology. In factories, workers began converting civilian equipment into weapons of war. The countdown had begun. 27 days until the aliens came to collect their answer. 27 days to prepare for a war that humanity had little chance of winning, but as Amy Foster said, while working late in her lab, little chance isn't the same as no chance. And sometimes that's all you need. The 30 days passed faster than anyone wanted. Despite working around the clock, humanity's preparations felt woefully inadequate. Dr. Kevin Brown had managed to understand some basic principles of alien technology, but not enough to build effective countermeasures. Amy Foster had designed new weapons, but they were still based on human technology that seemed primitive compared to what the aliens possessed. Dr. Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, now serving as the flagship of Earth's defense fleet. Around him, 200 human ships waited in formation near the moon. They looked brave and determined, but Jake knew they were about to face an enemy that outnumbered them 10-1. Long-range sensors are picking up movement at the edge of the solar system, reported Lieutenant Tom Clark, the communications officer. It's a big fleet, Captain. Really big, Jake nodded grimly. How long until they reach us? At their current speed, about 6 hours. Send a message to all ships. Final weapons check. Make sure everyone knows the battle plan. The battle plan was simple because it had to be. The human fleet would engage the aliens near Mars, trying to draw them away from Earth. If they lost, which was likely the remaining ships would fall back to Earth for a final defense. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was all they had. Admiral Kexvara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive human fleet on his screens. 200 small ships, mostly converted cargo vessels with weapons bolted on. It was almost pitiful. "Admiral," his aide said, "the humans are moving to intercept us near the fourth planet." "Mars," Admiral Kexvara said, remembering the human name for their red planet. "How quaint. They actually think they can stop us. Should we destroy them quickly? No, let them attack first. I want them to understand how useless their weapons are before we end this." The two fleets met in the space between Mars and Jupiter. The human ships spread out in a loose formation, trying to avoid giving the aliens easy targets. The alien fleet moved in perfect order, their ships gleaming with energy shields that made them look like metal stars. "All ships, this is Captain Miller," Jake said over the radio. "Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive long enough to hurt them. Use every trick you know." The battle began when the aliens fired first. Beams of pure energy lanced out from their ships, striking the human vessels with devastating force. The first human ship to be hit, the cargo vessel New York, simply vanished in a flash of light. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The human ships launched everything they had. Missiles, plasma bolts, even old-fashioned railgun rounds. Most of the weapons bounced harmlessly off the alien shields, but a few got through, causing minor damage too. The alien ships. "Their shields aren't perfect," Amy Foster said from her position at the weapons console. "The railgun rounds are getting through better than the energy weapons." "All ships, focus on kinetic weapons," Jake broadcast. Missiles and railguns only. The battle quickly turned chaotic. The human ships darted around like angry wasps, using their smaller size and greater maneuverability to avoid the alien weapons. It was working, but barely. For every alien ship that took damage, humanity lost 2 or 3 ships. Pilot Sarah Davis led a squadron of fighter craft in a desperate attack on an alien cruiser. Her small ship weaved between the energy beams, getting close enough to fire. A full spread of missiles at point-blank range. The alien ship's shields flickered and failed, and the missiles punched through its hull. "First kill!" Sarah shouted over the radio. Their shields can be overloaded, but the victory was short-lived. 3 more alien ships focused their fire on Sarah's squadron, and only she managed to escape. Admiral Kexvara watched the battle with growing annoyance. These humans were supposed to be easy prey, but they were fighting like cornered animals. They had already destroyed 5 of his ships and damaged a dozen more. "Admiral," his aide said, "perhaps we should end this quickly. The humans are causing more damage than expected." "No," Admiral Kexvara said firmly. "I want them to understand their place. Continue the attack, but don't use our heavy weapons yet. Let them exhaust themselves." Jake watched his fleet shrink from 200 ships to 150. Then to 100. The humans were fighting bravely, but they were losing. He needed to do something different. "Amy, what about that idea you had? The one you called crazy?" Amy looked at him with wide eyes. "You mean ramming them?" "I mean ramming them. If we can't punch through their shields with weapons, maybe we can punch through them with our ships." "That's suicide, Captain." "Maybe. But if we're going to die anyway, let's make it count." Jake opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Miller. We're changing tactics. Any ship that's too damaged to fight effectively, set course for the nearest alien ship, and ram them at full speed. Make every sacrifice count." The alien fleet suddenly found themselves facing something they had never encountered before. Human ships, already crippled and burning, turned toward the alien vessels and accelerated to ramming speed. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but the human ships were small and fast. And some of them got through. The cargo vessel Boston rammed an alien destroyer, both ships exploding in a ball of fire. The frigate Seattle crashed into an alien cruiser, taking out its main weapons. The mining ship Denver, already missing half its hull, slammed into Admiral Kexvara's flagship, causing significant damage to the alien command ship. "What are they doing?" Admiral Kexvara demanded as his ship shook from the impact. They're ramming us, Admiral. They're using their ships as weapons. That's impossible. No civilized species would waste resources like that. These humans don't seem to care about resources, Admiral. They seem to care about fighting. The tide of battle began to shift slightly. The aliens were still winning, but the human tactics were so unexpected that they were causing confusion in the alien ranks. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation began to spread out, trying to avoid the ramming attacks. Dr. Kevin Brown, monitoring the battle from Earth, noticed something important. The alien ships are changing formation, he told President Collins. They're not working together as well as they were. What does that mean? It means they're not used to this kind of fighting. They're used to enemies who fight the way they do, but humans fight differently. On the Liberty, Jake was down to 70 ships, but he had a new idea. All remaining ships form up on me. We're going to try something. The surviving human ships gathered around the Liberty, forming a tight group. Instead of spreading out, they were bunching together. Captain, Amy said, that makes us an easier target. That's the idea. Sarah, take your fighters and hide behind the planet. When the aliens focus on us, hit them from behind. Sarah Davis and her remaining fighters moved to the far side of Mars, using the planet to hide from alien sensors. The main human fleet continued to fight, drawing the alien ships closer together as they tried to surround the humans. Now! Jake shouted. Sarah's fighters came around Mars at full speed, hitting the alien rearguard with everything they had. At the same time, the human fleet executed a desperate charge. Ramming and shooting at the alien ships that were now trapped between two forces, the surprise worked. In the space of 5 minutes, the humans destroyed 15 alien ships and damaged many more. It was the most successful attack they had managed since the battle began. Admiral Kexvara was furious. Enough of this. All ships use maximum firepower. End this now. The alien fleet unleashed its full strength. Energy beams that could destroy a ship in one hit lanced out from every alien vessel. The space around Mars lit up like a star as the aliens poured everything they had into destroying the human fleet. Jake watched his ships die one by one. The Liberty took hit after hit, its hull cracking and its weapons failing. But they had proven something important. All ships, this is Captain Miller, he said over the radio as his ship began to break apart. We've shown them that humans don't give up. We've shown them that we can hurt them. Now get back to Earth and keep fighting. The Liberty exploded in a ball of fire, but not before Jake's final message reached the surviving human ships. Sarah Davis and 30 other vessels limped back toward Earth, carrying the news of the battle to those who would continue the fight. Admiral Kexvara looked at the aftermath of the battle. He had won, but at a cost he hadn't expected. 43 of his ships were destroyed or too damaged to fight. The rest had various levels of damage that would take time to repair. Admiral, his aide said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. These humans are more dangerous than we thought. Admiral Kexvara stared at the wreckage of the human fleet floating in space. No, he said finally. They're just desperate. Desperate creatures do stupid things. But they can't win through desperation alone. But as his fleet moved toward Earth, Admiral Kexvara couldn't shake the feeling that he had just learned something important about humans. Something that made him uncomfortable. They didn't fight like any other species he had ever encountered. They fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And that, he was beginning to realize, made them very dangerous indeed. The news of the battle at Mars spread across Earth within hours. Captain Jake Miller was dead, along with most of humanity's space fleet. The aliens were coming, and there was nothing left to stop them in space. But instead of despair, something unexpected happened. People got angry. President Martha Collins stood in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath the White House, watching reports flood in from around the world. Instead of panic, she was seeing preparation. Instead of surrender, she was seeing defiance. Madam President, General Ryan Hayes said, we're getting reports from every major city. People are volunteering to fight. Military recruitment centers have lines around the block. Factories are running 24 hours a day to produce weapons. What about the lunar colonies? The president asked. That's where it gets interesting, General Hayes replied. Colonel Matt Johnson is in command up there, and he's requesting permission to implement something he calls unconventional defense strategies. Dr. Kevin Brown looked up from his computer screen. I've been analyzing the battle data that Sarah Davis brought back. The aliens weren't expecting our ramming tactics. Their whole military doctrine seems based on fighting enemies who use similar technology and tactics. Amy Foster, who had been working without sleep for 3 days, added, I've been thinking about what Jake said before he died. We can't match their technology, but we can use technology they don't understand or expect. What do you mean? President Collins asked. Simple machines. Low-tech weapons. Things that work on principles they might not be familiar with. Their sensors are designed to detect energy weapons and missiles. But what about something like a catapult? Or a giant slingshot? Dr. Kevin laughed despite the grim situation. That's so crazy it might actually work. Their computers wouldn't know how to calculate the trajectory of a rock thrown by a mechanical device. On the moon, Colonel Matt Johnson was putting his own unconventional plans into action. The lunar colonies had originally been built for mining, which meant they had lots of heavy equipment designed to move rocks and dig tunnels. Matt had been staring at this equipment for days, thinking about how to use it as weapons. Listen up, everyone, he told the 300 colonists gathered in the main habitat dome. The aliens are coming and they probably think we're just helpless miners hiding on the moon. They're wrong. He pointed to a massive drilling machine that was normally used to extract minerals from the lunar surface. This thing can drill through solid rock. I think it can drill through alien ship hulls too. Lisa Park, who had been evacuated to the lunar colony for safety, looked at the colonel with amazement. You want to use mining equipment as weapons? Why not? The aliens are expecting us to fight them with spaceships and energy weapons. They're not expecting us to drive a tunnel-boring machine into their ships. The colonists looked at each other, and then they started to smile. These were people who had spent years working in the harshest environment humans had ever lived in. They were tough, creative, and not easily intimidated. What do you need us to do, Colonel? Asked one of the miners. Help me turn this entire moon into a weapon. Back on Earth, the alien fleet was approaching. Admiral Kexvara had spent the journey from Mars trying to understand what had happened in the battle. His ships had won, but the victory felt strange. No other species had ever fought like the humans had fought. Admiral, his aide reported, we're approaching the human homeworld. Long-range sensors show some ships near their moon, but nothing that appears to be a threat. What about the planet itself? Massive energy signatures from their cities. They appear to be manufacturing something on a large scale. Should we demand their surrender now? Admiral Kexvara thought about it. High Commander Vexler had wanted the humans to surrender after seeing the power of the Zephyrian Alliance. But after the battle at Mars, the Admiral wasn't sure that was going to happen. Open a communication channel to the planet, he ordered. On Earth, President Collins received the alien message in the command center. Admiral Kexvara's face appeared on the screen, looking exactly as arrogant as she remembered from the reports of the first meeting. Humans of Earth, the alien admiral said, you have seen what happens when you resist the Zephyrian Alliance. Your fleet is destroyed. Your planet is defenseless. I offer you one final chance to surrender and accept our guidance. President Collins looked around the room at her advisors, then back at the screen. Admiral Kexvara, I have a message for you and your entire fleet. Come and take it. The alien admiral's expression darkened. Very well, you have chosen your fate. The communication ended and President Collins turned to her team. How long until they reach us? 6 hours, General Hayes replied. Then we have 6 hours to show them what humans are really capable of. The alien fleet moved toward Earth, expecting to find a demoralized planet ready to surrender. Instead, they found something no Zephyrian military doctrine had prepared them. For as the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, they were met not by advanced weapons, but by the most primitive attacks imaginable. Giant catapults launched boulders at their ships. Massive slingshots fired metal balls. Even trebuchets, rebuilt from ancient designs, hurled chunks of concrete and steel. What are they doing? Admiral Kexvara demanded as a boulder the size of a car bounced off his ship's shields. They're throwing rocks at us, Admiral. That's impossible. No civilized species fights with rocks. But the rocks were just the beginning. As the alien ships descended toward major cities, they found that humans had turned everything into weapons. Construction cranes swung wrecking balls at low-flying ships. Fire trucks sprayed experimental acid instead of water. Even farmers had joined the fight, using their tractors to launch hay bales wrapped in explosives. The aliens' advanced sensors and computers were designed to track missiles and energy weapons. They had no idea how to handle a school bus full of dynamite being launched from a giant rubber band, or a flock of geese with small bombs strapped to their backs. In New York City, Amy Foster watched from a rooftop as her latest invention was put to use. She had taken the city's subway system and turned it into a massive rail gun. Instead of trains, the tunnels now launched telephone poles at incredible speed. "Fire!" she yelled into her radio. A telephone pole shot out of a subway entrance at nearly the speed of sound, punching clean through an alien ship's shields and hull. The ship crashed into the Hudson River with a tremendous splash. On the moon, Colonel Matt Johnson was implementing his own insane plan. The lunar colonists had spent days converting their mining equipment into the strangest weapons ever conceived. Tunnel boring machines were fitted with rockets, turning them into massive drills that could fly through space. Rock haulers had been converted into catapults that could launch chunks of moon rock at incredible speed. "There!" Matt shouted, pointing at a group of alien ships approaching the moon. "Hit them with everything we've got!" The moon suddenly came alive with activity. Drilling machines blasted off the surface like bizarre rockets, spinning toward the alien ships. Massive chunks of rock flew through space, launched by mining equipment that had never been designed for warfare. The aliens were completely unprepared for this type of attack. Their shields could stop energy weapons, but they had trouble dealing with a 10-ton chunk of rock moving at orbital velocity. Several alien ships were damaged or destroyed by what was essentially very advanced caveman tactics. "This is impossible!" Admiral Kexvara screamed as his ship shook from another impact. "How are they doing this?" Dr. Kevin Brown, monitoring the battle from his bunker beneath the Pentagon, was amazed at how well the plan was working. "They're not used to fighting primitives," he told President Collins. "Their technology is so advanced that they've forgotten how to deal with simple, direct attacks." The battle raged for hours. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had something they didn't expect: the willingness to use anything and everything as a weapon. Garden hoses sprayed acid. Fireworks were turned into missiles. Even children's toys were converted into small bombs. But the most shocking moment came when Tom Clark, the communications officer from the destroyed USS Liberty, implemented a plan that no military academy had ever taught. He had survived the space battle and made it back to Earth, where he spent days working on a secret project. "Broadcasting now," he announced from a hidden radio station. Suddenly, every alien ship in the fleet started receiving the same signal: music. Specifically, human music played at volumes and frequencies that interfered with alien electronics. Rock and roll, classical, country, and hip-hop all blasted through space, jamming alien communications and causing their weapon systems to malfunction. "Turn it off," Admiral Kexvara ordered, but his crew couldn't figure out how to block the signals. Human music was apparently something their technology had never been designed to handle. As the day wore on, the aliens found themselves in the strangest battle they had ever fought. They were winning in terms of pure destruction, but they were losing something more important: their confidence. These humans didn't fight like any species they had ever encountered. They were unpredictable, creative, and absolutely refused to give up. Every time the aliens thought they had figured out human tactics, the humans did something completely different. The war had been going on for 2 weeks, and Admiral Kexvara was starting to understand why no one in the galaxy wanted to fight humans. His fleet was still powerful, but every day brought new surprises and new frustrations. These creatures seemed to have an endless supply of crazy ideas. On Earth, the humans had turned their entire planet into a fortress. They didn't just fight in space or on the ground. They fought everywhere, using everything. Children made booby traps from school supplies. Grandmothers cooked explosive pies. Even pet dogs had been trained to run at alien soldiers with small bombs strapped to their backs. Dr. Kevin Brown had been working day and night in his laboratory, and he finally made a breakthrough. The wreckage from the battle at Mars had given him pieces of alien technology to study. After 2 weeks of careful analysis, he understood how their shields worked. "Amy," he called to the engineer who was sleeping on a cot in the corner of the lab. "Wake up, I figured it out." Amy Foster rubbed her eyes and looked at the computer screen. "What am I looking at?" "Alien shield technology. It's brilliant, but it has a weakness. The shields work by detecting incoming attacks and creating a barrier to stop them. But they only work against attacks the computer recognizes as weapons." So what if we hit them with something that isn't a weapon? Something their computers don't recognize as dangerous? Amy's eyes lit up. Like what? Like water. Or paint or silly string. Their shields won't stop something that isn't supposed to hurt them. Amy started to smile. And once we get past their shields, then we can deliver real weapons. Small bombs hidden inside harmless objects. The shields let them through, and then they explode. Within hours, Amy had designed a new type of missile. It looked like a giant water balloon, and alien sensors read it as exactly that, harmless water. But hidden inside the water were small explosive devices that would detonate once the balloon broke against the alien ship's hull. The first test came that afternoon. A group of alien ships was attacking Chicago, and the city's defenders were ready. Instead of launching missiles or firing energy weapons, they launched thousands of water balloons. The alien ship's shields ignored the balloons completely. After all, what harm could water do to a starship? The balloons splattered against the ship's hulls, covering them with what appeared to be harmless liquid. Then the explosives hidden in the water went off. 6 alien ships were destroyed in the first attack. The rest retreated quickly, their captains trying to figure out what had just happened. "Admiral," reported a confused alien officer, "the humans just destroyed 6 ships with water balloons." Admiral Kexvara stared at the report. "Water balloons?" "Yes, sir. Our shields didn't stop them because they were just water. But there were explosives hidden inside." "That's cheating." "Sir? No civilized species hides bombs in toys." "It's not how warfare is supposed to work." But the humans weren't done. Dr. Kevin Brown and Amy Foster shared their discovery with resistance fighters around the world. Soon, alien ships were being attacked with birthday party decorations that contained hidden explosives, balloons filled with acid, gift boxes that turned into bombs when opened, even flower bouquets that fired poisonous darts. The alien fleet was becoming demoralized. Every time they thought they understood human tactics, the humans changed them. Again. It was like fighting an enemy that had no rules. Meanwhile, on the moon, Colonel Matt Johnson was preparing his masterpiece. For 2 weeks, his mining crews had been working on a project so crazy that even other humans thought he had lost his mind. "Colonel," said Lisa Park, "are you sure this is going to work?" Matt looked at the massive device his crew had built. It was essentially a giant slingshot, but one the size of a football stadium. Instead of rocks, it was designed to launch an entire spaceship. "Lisa, I've spent my whole career blowing things up and moving heavy objects. Trust me, this will work." The spaceship they planned to launch was the USS Chicago, one of the few human vessels that had survived the battle at Mars. It was heavily damaged and couldn't fly under its own power, but it was still intact. "What's the target?" Lisa asked. Matt pointed at the alien flagship, a massive vessel that hung in space near Earth like a metal moon. "That's Admiral Kexvara's ship. If we can take him out, the rest of the fleet might surrender." "And how exactly do you plan to aim a slingshot in space?" "Very carefully." The launch happened at dawn. The giant slingshot fired the USS Chicago toward Earth at incredible speed. The aliens detected the ship, but their computers identified it as debris from the earlier battle. After all, it wasn't under power and wasn't broadcasting any hostile signals. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. The Chicago slammed into the alien flagship like a bullet, tearing through its hull and causing massive damage. Admiral Kexvara was thrown to the floor of his bridge as his ship shook apart around him. Emergency lights flashed, and the sound of twisting metal filled the air. "Damage report," he shouted. "Hull breach on decks 5 through 12, his aide reported. "Main engines are offline. Weapon systems are failing. How did they do this?" "They shot a spaceship at us, Admiral, with a slingshot." Admiral Kexvara felt something he had never experienced in his long military career: complete bewilderment. These humans had just used a weapon that belonged in a children's storybook to cripple his flagship, but the humans weren't finished with their surprises. As the alien fleet tried to regroup, they found themselves facing the strangest attack yet. Tom Clark, the communications officer who had jammed alien electronics with music, had been working on a new project. He had discovered that human laughter, played at certain frequencies, could interfere with alien brain patterns. "Broadcasting now," he announced from his hidden radio station. Suddenly, every alien in the fleet started hearing something they had never encountered before: human comedy. Stand-up comedians, funny movies, silly songs, and people telling jokes flooded the alien communication channels. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien crew members began to lose concentration. Some started laughing involuntarily. Others became confused and disoriented. A few actually fell unconscious from sensory overload. "Turn it off," Admiral Kexvara ordered, but his crew was laughing too hard to follow orders. On Earth, President Martha Collins watched the chaos from her command center. "Is that really working?" Dr. Kevin Brown was studying the readings from alien ships. "It appears that alien brains aren't designed to process human humor. It's overloading their nervous systems." "So we're winning a war with jokes?" "Among other things, yes." But the real turning point came when Sarah Davis, the pilot who had survived the battle at Mars, implemented the most audacious plan yet. She had been working with a team of engineers to modify her fighter craft with captured alien technology. "This is crazy," she said to herself as she launched from a hidden base on the moon. "But crazy seems to work against these guys." Her ship looked like a standard human fighter, but hidden inside were alien energy weapons and shield generators. The combination of human creativity and alien technology created something neither side had ever seen before. Sarah flew straight at the alien fleet, and their sensors identified her as a minor threat. One small human fighter against 200 alien ships? It wasn't even worth paying attention to. That was their mistake. Sarah's hybrid weapons tore through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Her shields, based on alien technology but modified with human improvements, was stronger than anything the aliens had ever seen. In less than an hour, she had destroyed 20 alien ships and damaged dozens more. The alien fleet, already demoralized by weeks of impossible human tactics, began to panic. "Admiral," an alien officer reported to Kexvara, "there's a single human ship destroying our entire fleet." "That's impossible." "She's using our own technology against us, but it's been modified somehow. It's more powerful than our own weapons." Admiral Kexvara looked at his tactical display and felt his world falling apart. His advanced, technologically superior fleet was being defeated by a species that fought with slingshots, water balloons, and comedy shows. For the first time in his career, he began to wonder if the Zephyrian Alliance had made a terrible mistake. These humans weren't just primitive. They weren't just stubborn. They were something far more dangerous. They were creative, adaptable, and absolutely refused to follow any rules of warfare that made sense, and worst of all, they were winning. Admiral Kexvara stood on the damaged bridge of his flagship, staring at reports that seemed impossible. In 3 weeks of fighting, his fleet of 200 ships had been reduced to less than 90 functional vessels. The humans had started with barely 30 ships after the Mars battle, but somehow they were winning. "Sir," his aide said quietly. "We're receiving a transmission from High Commander Vexler." The communication screen flickered to life, showing the tall, pale figure of the Zephyrian Alliance leader. His dark eyes were filled with anger and disbelief. "Admiral Kexvara," Vexler said, his voice cold, "explain to me how a primitive species with inferior technology is defeating the finest fleet in the galaxy." Admiral Kexvara had been dreading this conversation. "High Commander, these humans don't fight like any species we've encountered. They use tactics that our military doctrine doesn't account for. They turn civilian objects into weapons. They attack us with things our shields don't recognize as threats. Are you telling me that the mighty Zephyrian Alliance is being defeated by toys and jokes? Not just toys, sir. They've learned to use our own technology against us. One of their pilots has a ship that combines human creativity with our weapon systems. It's more powerful than anything in our fleet." Vexler was silent for a long moment. "Return to the space station immediately. I will deal with these humans personally." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Kexvara alone with his doubts. For the first time in his long career, he wondered if the Zephyrian Alliance might be wrong about something. On Earth, President Martha Collins was meeting with her advisors in the command center. The war was far from over, but for the first time since it began, humans were winning more battles than they were losing. "What's our status?" she asked General Ryan Hayes. "Better than we hoped," the general replied. Sarah Davis and her hybrid fighter have become a symbol of human resistance. We're building more ships using the same technology. Dr. Kevin Brown has figured out how to mass-produce weapons that can bypass alien shields. Amy Foster looked up from her workstation. "We've also got something new. Remember how Tom Clark discovered that human music and comedy interfere with alien electronics and brain patterns? What about it? We've weaponized it. We can now broadcast specific frequencies that will shut down alien ships completely. No explosions, no violence. We just turn off their technology with sound waves." President Collins smiled for the first time in weeks. "Show me." The demonstration happened an hour later. A lone alien ship was patrolling near the moon when Earth's new weapon was tested. Tom Clark, now in charge of the Audio Warfare Division, broadcast a carefully designed mix of human music, laughter, and random noise. The alien ship simply stopped moving. Its engines shut down, its weapons powered off, and its shields disappeared. The ship floated helplessly in space like a piece of debris. "Incredible," President Collins said. "Can we do this to their entire fleet?" "We're working on it," Tom replied. "The bigger the fleet, the more power we need. But yes, theoretically, we could shut down every alien ship at once." Meanwhile, High Commander Vexler was traveling to Earth with a small fleet of his personal ships. He had ruled the Zephyrian Alliance for over 300 years, and no species had ever successfully resisted him. These humans would learn their place one way or another. "Sir," his captain reported, "we're approaching the human system. Long range. Sensors show Admiral Kexvara-S fleet in retreat." "In retreat?" Vexler-S voice was dangerous. "Yes, sir. It appears the humans have developed some kind of audio weapon. They're broadcasting signals that shut down our ship's systems." Vexler stared at the tactical display. The mighty Zephyrian fleet, the most advanced military force in the galaxy, was running away from sound waves created by a species that had only been in space for 8 years. "This ends now," he said. "Open a communication channel to the human planet." President Collins received the alien transmission in the command center, surrounded by her entire team. The face of High Commander Vexler appeared on the screen, looking even more arrogant and angry than she remembered. "Humans of Earth," Vexler said, "I am High Commander Vexler of the Zephyrian Alliance. You have caused enough trouble. I'm coming to your planet personally to end this rebellion." President Collins looked at her advisors, then back at the screen. "High Commander, this isn't a rebellion. This is a free people defending their home. You're welcome to come here, but you should know that we've learned a lot about fighting in the past few weeks. You think your primitive tricks will work against me? I have conquered 200 worlds. I have destroyed civilizations that were far more advanced than yours. Maybe, President Collins replied, but I bet none of them were as stubborn as humans. The transmission ended, and President Collins turned to her team. How long until he gets here? 2 days, General Hayes replied. Then we have 2 days to prepare the warmest welcome Earth has ever given an alien visitor. 2 days later, High Commander Vexler arrived at Earth with 50 of his best ships. They were larger and more powerful than anything Admiral Kexvara had commanded. Their shields were stronger, their weapons more devastating, and their crews were hand-picked veterans of 100 campaigns. Vexler expected to find a demoralized planet ready to surrender. Instead, he found something that shocked him to his core. The humans were waiting for him. Every ship in Earth's small fleet was in formation around their planet. The moon bristled with weapons both conventional and ridiculous. Space stations that had been hastily built in the past few weeks floated in strategic positions, ready to launch everything from missiles to garbage at the alien fleet, but most surprising of all was the message that greeted them as they approached Earth. "Hi, Commander Vexler," came a voice over the radio. It was Sarah Davis, the pilot who had become humanity's greatest space ace. "This is Earth Defense Command. You have entered human space without permission. Please state your intentions." Vexler was outraged. "I am High Commander of the Zephyrian Alliance. I do not ask permission from primitive species." "Well, Sarah," replied cheerfully, "that's your first mistake." The battle began immediately. Vexler's ships unleashed their full power, expecting to crush the human fleet quickly. But the humans had learned from every previous battle. They didn't fight fair. They didn't follow rules. They used every dirty trick, clever tactic, and insane strategy they could think of. Ships that looked like harmless cargo vessels suddenly revealed hidden weapons. Asteroids that appeared to be natural space rocks turned out to be hollow shells, filled with explosives. Even space debris was weaponized, turned into high-speed projectiles by magnetic launchers. But the most devastating attack came from Tom Clark and his audio warfare division. They had spent 2 days preparing a special broadcast just for High Commander Vexler. "We're broadcasting now," Tom announced. The signal that hit the alien fleet was unlike anything they had ever experienced. It wasn't just music or comedy. It was every sound that made humans human. Children laughing, people singing, crowds cheering. At sporting events, babies crying, wedding celebrations, funeral dirges. The sound of rain, of wind, of ocean waves. It was the sound of life itself, chaotic and beautiful and completely incomprehensible to the ordered alien minds. The effect was immediate and total. Alien ships stopped firing. Crew members sat down and stared at nothing. Some began to cry, though they didn't understand why. Others felt emotions they had never experienced before. High Commander Vexler felt his carefully controlled world falling apart around him. For 300 years, he had believed that order and technological superiority were the keys to galactic dominance. But these humans were teaching him something that shattered everything he thought he knew. Chaos could be beautiful. Unpredictability could be strength. And sometimes the most primitive species could teach the most advanced civilizations what? They had forgotten about being alive. "Cease fire," he whispered. "Sir?" his captain asked. "I said cease fire. All ships stand down." The battle stopped as suddenly as it had begun. For the first time in Zephyrian history, their fleet had surrendered without being defeated. Sarah Davis appeared on Vexler's communication screen. "High Commander, are you ready to talk now?" Vexler looked at this young human pilot who had humbled the greatest military force in the galaxy. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," Sarah replied. "We just want to be left alone to live our lives the way we choose. We don't want to rule anybody else. We don't want to conquer other worlds. We just want our freedom. And if we leave you alone, then maybe we can be friends someday. Real friends, not masters and servants." Vexler was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "The Zephyrian Alliance acknowledges human sovereignty over your system. We will withdraw our forces and leave you in peace." "Thank you," Sarah said. "And High Commander?" If you ever want to learn how to laugh, you're welcome to visit any time. As the alien fleet departed, Vexter sat alone on his bridge, thinking about what he had learned. For 300 years, he had believed that strength came from control and superiority. But these humans had shown him something different. True strength came from the courage to be yourself, even when the whole galaxy told you to be something else.